You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Carla Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another? Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Hello, everyone. Good day, good evening. Welcome to Researchers Radio Live. This is Joe K. We are also joined this evening by my co-host, my counterbalance, Tim C.
How you doing, Joe?
I've never been better before in my life. And yes, I am patronizing you.
That's good to hear.
How are you?
I'm doing well,
Everyone, welcome to the program. Welcome to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. I'm very excited to mention that we have Tim C in the studio. Tim C is in the house. He is in my production central, and it's an honor to have him here. I'm very happy to have him. I'm sorry about the unfortunate weather that we've had of all this incredible amount of rain since you've arrived.
Yeah, I brought it with me,
okay.
Definitely.
I was going to blame it on you, but I'm glad you already fessed up to it.
12-hour trip, and it followed me the whole way, no doubt.
But no lightning, no thunder, just rain.
No, just rain.
Yeah, so nothing exciting.
Just lots and lots of rain.
Awesome. But welcome. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I came down, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of traffic, and you don't only once you hit. See, I come from New York, so you take 95 down like the whole way, and then somewhere in North Carolina, you end up getting on these back roads, and I guess that's really the only. Well, that's the way my GPS told me to go.
Right.
So I'm just assuming that is the actual best route because I trust my GPS.
Well, it's just another example that digital technology can have senses of humor.
Right.
So it's nice to see that they were entertaining you.
Oh yeah,
taking you.
I love one-lane back roads when you're stuck in traffic for several hours, pouring rain because people are crashing into each other.
The region you went through was very remote.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yes, I don't know what someone would do if they had vehicle troubles. Vehicle troubles.
There was a couple bad accidents actually. The whole time I'm sitting in traffic and I'm banging the steering wheel with my fist, and then you get up there and you see people are actually either injured or in like dire straits, and you say, okay, I feel pretty bad about that, but yeah, I got here.
Well, we're very happy to have you.
I did get locked in a bathroom on the way down.
Right. That is very unfortunate. However, it's not necessary to share the.
I'm not going to go into the details, but I got out.
Habits of your travels.
I did get out.
We're very happy you made it out of the restroom and arrived here safely. I can't be happier. Thank you. Weather's going to be clear soon. We do have a good program this evening. We have Mr. Stefan Verstappen. Thank you. I thought you were going to. I'm sorry, Tim. I thought you were going to take it from me there.
Well, he's an author.
I'm not used to having you in presence.
Right.
Well, yeah, but he's going to be joining us in a few minutes. And what I wanted to say was I wanted to remind everyone that we are listener supported here at freedomslips.com. I would very much be greatly appreciated if you would make your way to freedomslips.com. I always recommend a long-term visit or a temporary stay in the chat room. Please make your way there. If you haven't visited the chat room, I really do recommend it. Take some time, relax, get into the chat room, look for some interesting conversations. There's several on many different topics due to the fact of Studio A and Studio B running concurrently, and we're pretty much. I would imagine we're darn close to running Studio B and Studio A fully for 20 hours a day at this point, if I'm not mistaken. We're getting very, very close. However, being listener supported, that does include the idea that we are listener supported by donation. And we all do what we can. People at the station do what they can, hosts and producers and everyone involved. We all do what we can to keep it going. And we are very grateful for all of our listeners and any of the listeners that do make donations, regardless of the amount. Don't feel hesitant to make a donation at the station due to a smaller amount, $1, $2, $3. We're very grateful for that, and I say that sincerely. Sometimes I would just be very delighted if just a handful of people from each program just called in and just threw a few dollars in the hat. It really keeps things going and keeps things growing, which is more important at this point. I'm going to return to this because I'd like to also return to the famous seed pack. But we're going to drop that one on you in just a little bit, Timothy.
Very good.
Very good. Before we get to our guest, I would also like to mention, you obviously know, Tim, of my excitement for the month of September involving Researchers Radio due to the schedule lineup we have of fantastic programs, in my opinion.
That's
I'm
right.
very excited about the programming.
Masters Month.
The month of the Masters, September. It is a very important month. We have the autumn equinox, which is probably my favorite. Mm-hmm. If one had a cardinal favorite, that would be mine. And due to that, and the 1-year anniversary of this show, which is about 2 weeks away from now, We're going to bring in Autumn Properly, and we're going to start the month, of course, with the Masters in September. All of the show dates for Researchers Radio are on multiples of 7, which is very important, and I appreciate it, certainly. So the first show on September 7th is going to be based on the Hermetic teacher and the person who brings modern-day Western writings. He's the gentleman who brought us Plato and so much more that's it's not even worth trying to fit it in a few sentences. This is going to be a fantastic show, I assure you. If you have never heard of Marsilio Ficino, I will introduce Marsilio Ficino to you in a way that very few people probably can. And I'm going to do it with elegance. It's going to be a wonderful thing, and I will bring things to light which he was making very clear for very influential and important people at a very critical time in the crossroads of modern-day history. We followed that show up with September 14th on my main man, Giordano Bruno, who was a Hermetic himself, an alchemist, an absolute true master, a true master on the art of memory, a true master through and through in the lingual arts, and he was able to secure himself a nice visit with the Pope to display his talents on memory. And then September 21st, we have our main man, Mr. Robert Sullivan, who joined the program, Tim, as you know, 32nd degree Freemason.
That was a great show.
Great show.
He's an excellent guest.
He's the author of Royal Arch of Enoch and Cinema Symbolisms. We're going to have him return to the show, of course, for the equinox, September 21st. And he will be joining us on the program to give us a little education in regards to the understandings of what people talk about but don't know about the true man, John Dee. So John Dee will be for the fall equinox with Mr. Robert Sullivan IV, who wrote the Royal Arch of Enoch and Cinema Symbolisms. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then we have September 28th, we have author Amir Axel, author of The Secret Notebooks of René Descartes. And that's going to be a fantastic show. I'm really looking forward to that. René Descartes, one of the most brilliant minds that we know of in all of human history. Absolute true genius and just a wonderful, brilliant mind. And we're going to bring him to light for those of you that don't know him. And for those of you who do, I'm going to try to bring everything to full beauty on which I feel he deserves. We might continue this later on in the year, bringing in a few other people. This was a tough list to choose, these 4, but I do feel it's crucial to move further. Also, everyone, I should let you know a lot of this idea for this show came to be because Tim C. and I have been spending a good deal of time over the last few months. We have a list of the books that Leonardo da Vinci would keep on his person. They were his personal books, ones that he would refer to, the ones he used for his studies, his ideas, his sciences, his notebooks, his experiments, his teachings. And based upon all of his notebooks, and he logged the accounts of his books, which ones he kept, which one he did acquire and keep, but he did mention the books which were important to him, which he would travel with. So Tim C. and I have been going through those books. We've been trying to, one by one, trying to collect the actual original authentic prints of the versions that he would have had, regardless of the original language, Latin, and all the vulgar tongues, as he would have said.
Right.
German, Greek, and of course Latin, the true vulgar tongue, which he was accused of writing in several times.
Needless to say, it's a difficult task because of the number of languages that most of these texts are in. We're a little limited to what,
It takes time.
Yeah.
It's taking time.
Definitely.
And in order to, we could just go through a lot of books and tell you how cool they are, and it makes for an interesting topic. But in order to do it right, is to set up the ideals in which he was trying to actually portray. My personal opinion with someone like Leonardo da Vinci is he's absolutely been completely butchered through history. There's incredible. I saw a quote with a picture of Leonardo da Vinci, and the quote said, 90% of the quotes I've never even said, regarded to him. And it was, just a satire joke, but it's probably so true. The things I read so many things on him, or I hear things have just been repeated over and over and over, and I think it's very important that we go back through this, because this is going to be something awesome. I assure you. I don't even know which one's going to be my favorite. Maybe Marsilio Ficino, the first one. Oh, I should also mention, how could I forget this? During this month of Masters in September here at Researchers Radio Live, we will be, I think what we're going to do is, I think I'm going to pose a riddle. And with this riddle, we'll pose it in the first show, and whoever contacts us, we will set up, if you're savvy enough to solve this riddle live while we're still on air, and you contact us live on air, I would be super impressed. However, the first person who contacts us with the correct answer for the riddle, here at Researchers Radio Live, we will be sending you, immediately the next day, we will be sending you an 1888 printing of The Republic by Plato. And out of respect for the month of Masters, and all four of our Masters focused on that month would have had a great deal of respect for Plato, and of course Socrates and everyone else that comes into this group. Everyone that falls under that arch, Tim.
That's right. Or arc.
I'll say arc. That's cool. That's fine with me. So, I'm going to try to catch up with our man here. So, Tim, let me ask me something. You know what? I'm going to reverse this. Let me ask you something here.
Sure.
It's Ebola Day here in Atlanta. And I only say that because that's really not too far from here. This is interesting.
We're only a couple hundred miles away.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, we've got some really horrible things happening in the world right now. The morgues in Africa are overflowing with people, with dead bodies, unfortunately, because of this Ebola outbreak that's in the news. And of course, I'm sure everybody, our listeners, know, unless they've been living under a rock, that the U.S. government flew these two Americans over to the heartland and to treat them. Now, I hope the best for them. I really do. But I also, I'm a concerned citizen, just because the CDC is involved, and they misplace things. I hope they don't misplace. You understand my problem
understand
with this,
completely.
But, I mean, it is what it is. The authorities got to handle it.
It is what it is, but it's also very simple. But if it's handled properly, but for instance, I mean, I could be wrong, but the little footage I did see on it, I saw this ambulance that was fitted to transport this guy, but it looked like it was traveling on the highway just like any other ambulance. Like, it didn't look like it was in a caravan of vehicles or anything like that. It's pretty scary, but also, like, I don't know. Do I want to be the next person in that caravan? Excuse me, that ambulance?
Well, you know what I mean.
It's just so difficult to bring such a pandemic full on that you have a very good chance of not surviving from it.
90% mortality rate is what they're saying. Right. But the truth is, it can't be. It's transferred via bodily fluid. So if it's done properly, okay, I can understand that. Yes, professionals probably could deal with it in a controlled environment and the transportation and whatnot. But I'll put it to you this way: bringing it on the soil, I do feel was irresponsible, especially when the majority of the Americans, and I'm speaking for the majority of the Americans,
such a quick decision,
have an issue with it, or at least want to discuss it prior to. Why couldn't they have brought him to an island off of our coast and set up a lab there? to deal with it. You know what I mean? There's got to be a hospital.
Right. Why couldn't they just
bring it to the masses?
Sterile environment.
Correct.
On site.
And I heard this article. This argument.
What are we offering in Atlanta that we couldn't bring to him?
I was under the impression
because
we
custom fit an airline to get him here.
Right. I thought it was in like Indiana or another state that they were going to end up. But
I'm not sure.
Needless to say.
I was going to say the joke that we.
So, the problem here is this: the country in Africa, they are they deal with this on a regular basis,
right.
And they are equipped for it to handle these these kind of cases. However, there's not a sanitary environment, and that's how people are. That's how it's spreading, more or less. Right. And
what if this?
It's just scary.
What if this doctor with Ebola was flying on a Malaysian airline plane? Would someone in the insurance business have to reevaluate the odds and particulars in such a scenario?
There's quite a risk factor there. I wouldn't want to get involved in that. But there's more going on in the world that's...
Lucky for me, Malaysian Airlines do not fly to my local airport.
Yes.
Nor do I fly to Malaysia.
No.
Nor over the Ukraine.
I won't be flying Malaysian Airlines ever in my lifetime. I'll guarantee you that.
Well, we'll see what happens, Tim.
But
it's still very early in life.
And the truth is, this is in the authorities' hands, and regardless of what the public, how we feel about it, and I feel like there should be a discussion about it. There should have been more. I think,
it all came too fast.
Yeah.
Who do we have, Tim? Here, I'm going to bring in our guest here.
Well, yeah, that's a great idea. We have, as our guest tonight, we have Stefan Verstappen. Mm-hmm. He is the author of several books on, first and foremost, his most recent book, The Art of Urban Survival, a Family Safety and Self-Defense Manual, Defense Against a Psychopath, a brief introduction into human predators.
I already have him on the line.
Excellent.
Yeah. Hello, Stefan. How are you?
I'm good, Joe. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. It's very nice to talk with you again.
Yeah, we had such a good talk last time.
We sure did. You're an excellent speaker, and you have a plethora of information and an excellent angle and outlook on things. And I'm very grateful that you would join us on the show after you were on the Electric Pyramid with Michael Parker. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Joe. You had me at hello. You didn't have to flatter me.
You're a kind gentleman, sir. Thank you so much. It goes both ways. We also have Tim C. with us here.
How you doing, Stefan?
Hi, Tim. Good to talk to you.
You too.
So it's very difficult from my situation right now because I almost want to pick up where we left off because there are so many different ways I can go with that. However, we could start. We were already we were going through your bio and speaking on behalf. Now, would you like to start off with what you're working on currently?
Currently, sure. The book I'm working on right now is called The Community Survival Plan. And, when you've seen my video, Defense Against a Psychopath, and, I'm trying to point out things that are wrong with our society and possibly the causes of it. And, I find a lot of us, I mean, people that are awake, that are, trying to be activists, even that term is sort of a misnomer. I mean, just being awake, you are automatically an activist. But a lot of what we do is point out everything that's wrong in the world. And goodness knows there's plenty to point out. So I'm trying to, in my own humble way, come up with whatever solutions I can find that are a positive addition to it. Yes, we need to, see what's wrong, and we need to point it out and need to identify the problem. It's like, our society has a disease. Let's identify that disease. And then once you know what it is, once you have a diagnosis, now we can begin the healing process. So I think, our diagnosis, what we've come to is sort of, it's an internal rot and a corruption and an infestation of psychopathic parasites in, all levels of government and culture and corporate business. And that's why, things are kind of functioning.
there's no way to sugarcoat that and make it sound good. But really, that's what we have, and you've recognized patterns in such things.
Yeah, that's what we have, and
we have in the art of urban survival. You were talking about just that.
Yeah, and I tried to do that with the book, The Art of Urban Survival, because I know what we talked about last time, the historical patterns, and that we're heading into a period of social decline and possibly a social collapse of some order, not, I believe, on an apocalyptic level, but certainly unpleasant. And so the art of urban survival is meant to give people enough information that they can handle a lot of the types of threats that will be coming our way. Threats like, crime and corruption and natural disasters. And then, of course, the worst part is the human-made disasters, pandemics. There's a chapter on how to deal with a pandemic. And look at right now with the possibility of an Ebola virus outbreak. Now's a good time to read that chapter and figure out about social distancing and taking precautions against infection and things like that. So that's partly an answer, that book. But the other thing too is on a societal level, we need to do something to protect ourselves. So what I found was a solution that other cultures had come up with in the past to survive the implosion or the collapse of their empires. And that was a monastic system, which sounds really weird. It's like, let's all become monks and nuns. But if you remove the religious overtones, what you are left with is essentially a small, mutually supportive, self-sufficient community that was able to continue the services that the empire no longer could continue. For example, monasteries during the turbulent Dark Ages was the only place you could get an education. You couldn't learn to read or write anywhere else. They were also the centers of trade for their local communities. They held the trade fairs. And they also were sources of local industry with wine making and linen making and things like that. They were also the ones that preserved the knowledge from the old Roman Empire. If it wasn't for the books that the monks had copied and stored in the monasteries, we would currently know almost nothing about ancient history. So a small, self-sufficient community, people that support each other, become self-reliant, that can preserve some of the knowledge that they need to survive, and working together, that's the solution to how to survive when everything else falls apart into chaos. And so the community survival plan is not quite as dramatic as a monastery. It's simply a plan of how to organize a group of people and how to file nonprofit status and bylaws and rules and regulations, sort of like a republic, and start to support each other and establish them now. It's like a mutual aid group. Right, and so that's the book I'm working on.
Well, I think that sounds very important for, what's happening in the world right now. There is, there's so many crazy things happening in every corner of the globe at the moment, and I'm not saying that society is going to collapse here and there, but there are hints of revolution in several countries at this point. You never know.
Begin to think about it.
You never know when you're going to need these kind of skills. I was particularly interested in the book that you wrote, the Defense Against the Psychopath. And I was curious what your take was on, the current situation. Like, let's just say in the Ukraine. Do you think that perhaps maybe like Putin or some of these other people who are involved in this, do you think that those types of people in these high levels are actually psychopaths?
Well, if I were to hazard a guess, I would say absolutely. I don't think you could become the leader of a modern nation today without being a psychopath. I really don't think it's possible. And there's a number of reasons for that. Mostly you have to juggle the power of other people. And in order to do that, for example, take a a campaign for office somewhere in the United States, I mean, these politicians have to get up on stage and promise everybody everything, right? I mean, they can never make a stand, right? They never make a stand for or against this. It's always this sort of diluted kind of, double speak.
They're definitely good at dancing around answering a particular question.
Exactly. They're
no doubt about that. The best.
It's all about perpetuating their power and their reign. That's really it.
Exactly. So, how can an honest man succeed against in that kind of environment? An honest man cannot. It's like what's that old movie with from the 30s, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, have any of you guys seen that one? Maybe I'm dating myself here with
I know the movie. I'm familiar with the movie, but I've never actually seen it. I know the
if you ever have a chance, watch that movie. It's hysterical. It's from the 1930s, and it's what happens when an honest man accidentally ends up in Congress. They tore this guy to pieces. Jimmy, what was his name? Anyways, but no, an honest man can't survive because they will tear you to pieces right from the very start. But even if they didn't tear you to pieces, the voters would shun you anyways, because you're going to get up there, and if you're an honest man, you'll give your honest opinion on this. Now, you've automatically alienated half your voters because they're against whatever you said you stood for. And every time you open your mouth, you're going to alienate more and more people, especially if you're an honest person, because a lot of people, most people nowadays, tend to be dishonest. It's everybody pays lip service to wanting a noble man in office that's a great and noble leader. But you know what? In truth, they don't really want that too much, because when you have somebody around you that's honest, and you yourself are not completely honest either with yourself or with the rest of the world, you will start to feel on the defensive around them. So a really honest person starts to make people nervous. It's like when the minister gets up in the pew and he starts railing against pedophiles, and half the school teachers start to sweat.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. So you can't succeed. So what's left? Who is going to have the what it takes to succeed in politics? Well, a ruthless psychopath. That's what it takes. That's who's going to succeed. So with this Ukraine thing, first of all, I don't understand people. What don't you get about terrorist attacks? There is no terrorist group in the world that says to themselves, look, we're oppressed and we're being picked on by, unjustly by a huge power, and we want people to sympathize with us. Let's murder a bunch of innocent women and children.
I would say that Hamas has been doing that for weeks now. Just exactly that.
You think so?
I mean, they would do that only as like a false flag, but they wouldn't actually do that to raise sympathy.
But that's what they're trying to. That's the painting they're trying to make. That they're trying to show the mainstream world. You look at half of the mainstream news channels, and they're really they're basically saying that Israel is bombing. They're sending all these missiles in it, and meanwhile the whole time Hamas is. Look, they found several bombs that they're keeping in elementary schools. That's clearly a reason. I mean, come on. They're number one. Israel has higher technology. Yes, they have more pinpoint accuracy. Yes. Are they trying to? What are they doing with that? Number one, they're trying to lower civilian casualties. They are using.
That's all the political side,
right? But the fact of the matter is,
the point is these guys
Hamas
don't care about killing.
Hamas is just shooting missiles at the population, into Israel. They're just firing.
That's what
Right.
They're psychopaths. They don't care. They don't care if people die. They really don't. They're numbers. They're bartering chips.
Mm-hmm. But they are. They're crying. They're crying this message that Israel's this big bad, and they're oppressing us one way or another. They're not allowing us to have our land.
Well, I'm certain that there's plenty of psychopaths still in power today.
Definitely.
And I don't know if it's hereditary or taught or just completely bred in at this point, but I do believe this is the case. I mean, we do have monuments of in history that were legends for being complete psychopaths. And as our author guest has pointed out, this is a historical loop. This is continuous. It's almost to a science of predictability, depending on certain situations. And it's really what can we do to prepare? I mean, at this point now, Stefan, what can we do here in America to be more aware that psychopaths are really pushing the envelope while people are standing by?
Well, knowledge is, of course, the key.
Of course.
Learning to recognize the patterns of behavior. I mean, they are very good chameleons. They're very charming. Some of them can be very funny and quite witty and smart even. You know, I've known psychopaths that I've liked. You know, I've hated myself for liking them because I know what they are, but I found them amusing, you know, because they're very good at what they do. However, you cannot trust them, and you cannot trust them with anything like power or money, God forbid. And yet they're the ones that have all the money and the power. So...
And my money and everyone else's.
Yeah, mine too. You know, they've got it.
Our money is actually worth.
I mean, we can do another hour on that too. It goes on and on. You know, the ripple effect behind this. We can pursue each one down a different road of inquiry. But you know, what I always try to do, what I tried to do with Defense Against a Psychopath was I tried to get to the essence of where's the source of all this evil coming from, because you know we try to fix the different mechanisms of society. For example, you know, if more people went to church, it would be better, or if we passed more laws, it would be better, or if we taught this in schools, it would be better. You know, we're always trying to tinker with the mechanics of society, with the machinery, and yet it seems that no matter how many laws we pass or how many more great preachers, you know, are paraded before humanity who preach love and forgiveness and understanding and everybody get along and then they're shot. And how many more times do we need to see this? And yet, has it helped? No, it hasn't helped. So why does it not work? Why are we failing? Why did democracy fail? Why did the Constitution fail? I mean, personally, I think it's the most brilliant document ever written. These guys knew what they were up against. They knew that the psychopaths were going to move in the minute they stepped down and relinquished power. That, you know, Jefferson and Adams and Washington, they knew they were going to get old and they couldn't defend that country forever. And that's why they said, you know, it's a republic if you can keep it. Right. And they tried everything in their power to devise a mechanism to prevent, you know, by you know, diluting power, you know, decentralizing power is the key to keeping these madmen out of our, you know, everyday business, you know, and they tried their best to do it, and it's gone now.
Well, you know what?
I agree.
It all started with Woodrow Wilson, and since then, megalomaniacs who have been in office have chipped away at the central core of the Constitution. And
these might be one of the same gentlemen. No. But I can't agree more. They really did put together a nice work of art for our founding fathers in our original documents, and they put a great deal of thought into it in anticipation of things that are going on today. But I agree. Unfortunately, our finest lawmen have focused attention and efforts on manipulating things. So laws have been translated particular ways now and over a long period of time, which allowed us to get to this spot. But I do agree with you. I think we have reached a point of what do we do now? We're past that limit of return. No one's going to be fighting to put things back they were originally. That would be too much loss, and it would be too much of a jolt to the whole system.
I don't know. I don't think that it's necessarily too far. I think that what needs to happen is more or less several things need to happen, but the first thing that needs to happen, I think, really is we need to start taking some of these mid-level people out of office, senators and congressmen, and that's not going to solve the problem. What do you have any ideas? What do you think should be done?
Oh, I think they should set term limits on Congress, definitely. I can't believe these spiders are in there for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, for crying out loud. Yeah, you know,
and the
that's
Supreme
it.
Court.
Cycle it around, and it actually should be, Congress should be chosen by random lottery so that you get people in Congress that come from all walks of life. You get somebody that's a truck driver in there, and you get somebody that's a CEO in there, but not always rich lawyers, you know.
Well, you know what? I have never considered the lottery idea, but you know what? That sounds a hell of a lot better than what we have going on right now. I could say that.
You know what drives me nuts is this whole situation that the Supreme Court. Well, I'll put it to you this way: the GOP is talking about suing Obama, and you know they obviously pushed this through the House, and they're going to move forward with it. But it's really not going to do anything.
No.
It's just a show of all right, we're the GOP and we're really going to do something, you know. But I think what it does is it empowers the Supreme Court. It shows it gives them more footing than they already had. Like, you know, I mean, the Supreme Court, they're there till death do us part, more or less. They're there till death.
They're there to death, but unfortunately, that it actually gives them a lot of life, and they use it well.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, Stefan, I can't help myself. I really do want to. I'm burning since your comment about we need another hour about getting into the financial end on the manipulations on actual values of currencies and the control of such.
Sure, talk what you like, Joe. I'm here for you.
Well, you know, because this is a really big part of the whole control, and because these people equally don't care so much. I mean, these would be the same sorts of people who would fund both sides of the wars, and they're more interested in the dollar, regardless of the outcome. It's about the deal and the business situation, and how much money could be made, and how much power can be contained or growth. These are the same people, regardless, that don't care of the outcome of the general populace. It's a business deal when human labors and lives are involved. So they do play a big part. But, you know, we're really reaching a point here globally where I think we're really going to, my personal opinion is that we're going to have a big shake with the economy in the sense of I think we're really going to see a big cut down on the amount of different countries and nations with different currencies. I really think we're going to see a larger effort, only because there's fewer people at the end of the rainbow. As you trace back all the money, there's really only a few people involved, and it's just becoming too difficult entering this fully digital age to have so many different variations that change on a market level. Now, do you see that this being any problem going on here in regards to your research with the people in charge with the finances, having nefarious ideas and plans in regards to being psychopaths in charge on the government level?
Yeah, sure. You know, I'm not an economist, and I won't make any predictions on the financial state of the union. But look, let's look at what psychopaths are. We know what they are. They're predictable. They want absolute power. They all have a God complex. And if they can get the whole world under one currency, preferably on digital format, implanted as a chip, preferably inside your brain, that they could remotely detonate in case you go and get an overdraft.
You know, I just saw something recent that the International Monetary Fund, they're blaming. They're basically jumping on the global climate change, which is, you know, the new term for global warming. They're jumping on that bandwagon, saying that that's a driving force behind the world economy, this and that. And I don't know, it's just disgusting. So there's a level of megalomania with just about every monetary system. There really is in the entire world.
Right, and it's just more or less becoming a hassle. It's that's how they see it on the global level. Things could go a little smoother and simpler when there's less currency exchanges in markets.
Yeah, any kind of independence infuriates these people. You see, the world must be dependent on their whim to live. If you read like the stories about Caligula, or let's take the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, which is a really bizarre case. I'm sure everybody remembers him.
I kind of want to.
A serial murderer that preyed on homosexuals, and but here's the thing that he tried to do. He drilled holes into their skulls. First he drugged them, then he drilled holes into their skulls, and then he poured in acid. He wanted to lobotomize them so that they would be mindless sex objects for him to control. But what that gives you is a picture of what psychopaths want too. That's what they want. They want a bunch of mindless puppets that they can control.
I'd say that was an excellent comparison.
That he did it on a twisted sexual level and everything.
Of course, yeah.
There's so many levels of sickness behind these people. You can't. It's not just backwards, black and white, inside out. It's also reverse and mirror image and negative image. I mean, there's just so many levels of crazy. But that's an example of one level of crazy. But what the elite want is exactly what Jeffrey Dahmer wanted. And although they're too sophisticated to go around with a drill and try and bore holes into everybody's skulls personally, they are sophisticated enough to come up with like a microchip implant. That would work. Then we can have absolute control over everybody, know wherever they are. We can know what they're thinking, what they're spending, what they're buying, how much they're working. And if we don't like anything they're doing, we can push the little red button and kapoof, they're done.
Well, Google's done that already. They've designed basically a tattoo that is more or less a barcode, but they're also talking about, I know they've already developed the technology for a pill that people can take. I don't know if you've heard about this, but they want people to take this pill so that they can basically be tracked in their movements and, what stores they go to, this and that. I'm sure there's another nefarious reason for it, and several other, but, that obviously is already in the works. Unfortunately, Google is way too big at this point. But I don't know. I mean, look, I'm all for companies and people, prospering. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have big companies and corporations because you know what, it works. But when you have monopolies that corner businesses, it does create problems.
Yeah, so, in terms of trying to predict what they're going to do with the economy or predict with this, well, whatever prediction you can make, the details, I'll let professionals worry about that. But I can tell you the overall scheme, it's always more power, more money, more control. That's all it's going to be with these people. That's what it always has been. That's what it always will be. So every time there's a new executive order, is it to help somebody? Yes, it's to help the psychopaths in charge to get more power and more money. When there's a new piece of legislation put before Congress, is it to help people? Sure. It's to help the psychopaths to get more power and more money.
Isn't it disgusting how they use guilt for their own...
Yeah, and then the rest of us feel badly. Oh, my God,
they use fear for control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they want to... because variety offers opportunities for uniqueness, and they don't like uniqueness because psychopaths are not unique. They hate individuality and they hate creativity. My wife used to always say they hate life and liveliness, which is things like children and happy birthdays and the manger as a Christmas display in front of City Hall. They hate that too. And, they hate everything that would possibly have anything to do with being human and enjoying life and being good to each other. They can't stand that stuff. It's really weird with their personality. Most people don't believe this. I tell them, they actually hate this stuff. They're like Scrooge on steroids. And still people find it hard to believe, but, read the histories.
They want you working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, just paying more taxes, just even if you're working 3 jobs hourly, I mean, you're paying 3 times taxes.
Yeah.
That's what they want you to do, and being miserable keeps them happy, no doubt, because you will work for more things, and usually just by alcohol, fall into the regular loop.
Sure,
just spend, desire more, and just go earn more money, and just ultimately pay more taxes.
And the sad part about this is it's not just the Democrats, and it is the Republicans as well. They're both behind this. You look at the who actually, like, that Gang of Eight is a perfect example. Oh yeah, we're reaching across the aisle and we're going to get things done. And anytime that Gang of Eight gets together, they basically make mud.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any kind of political solution. I don't care about Democrats or conservatives. Here in Canada, they're called the Liberals and the Conservatives. This back and forth, red team, blue team nonsense. It's all just a circus to distract us. I mean,
they're all.
You're right about that.
They're all liars.
They're all liars, of course.
Honestly, the way I see it. I mean, whatever they're telling you, smiling on TV, you could assure you they're laughing and lying right in your face.
Yeah, I like the old quote by Huey Long, the former governor of, it's Louisiana. I don't know if you remember him, the Kingfisher. And he said the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is that the Republicans rob you from the neck down and the Democrats rob you from the socks up.
But you're right though. They do. There's an element of entertainment that they try to bring to the table where they want you to feel like you're a part of their side, and then they can pretty much, once they got you, then they'll just make you tag along to whatever their agenda really is.
It's scary how similar it is to a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
root for the home team.
It really is. How simple it is. How even the moves that are made are large moves involving many lives and people's hopes. But ultimately, they really just don't see that. It's hard for people to understand. It's like making a business decision. You're in a management level of a big company. You're trying to make the best idea for the company, and sometimes a couple hundred people gotta be let go. But if you're in that position of making that decision, ultimately you really don't care about those people. It's really how it goes. You have to let them go.
Well, a perfect example about
they gotta go. They gotta go.
The powers not be caring about the people. Look at the border. Do you think that they really care about humanitarian aid? Do you think that all these people pouring over the border? Do you think that when the powers that be, when I'll just say it flat out, when the Obama administration gets in front of a microphone and they start spewing all this crap about, it's about the children, it's the children, yada yada yada. It's not about the children. It's about their voter base. That's all it is. 100%. It's disgusting.
Yeah, is it about the children? No, it's about a bunch of psychopaths getting more money and more power. And that's why I'm jaded, guys. I'm 57 now, and I've seen a lot, and I've been a lot of places, and I'm jaded. I don't. It's the old Chinese saying: "I believe nothing I hear and half of what I see." Because, and also, this is going to sound weird, but people often say to me, "Oh, well, you're a very humble guy and all that." And but I'm not really humble, because what I am is a scientist. And what by that I mean is I practice the rule of rationality, and I know that I am not capable of knowing all these things. I have no direct access to that kind of knowledge. So for me to speak about a lot of things is not right, because I can't accurately say. So if you're talking about Ukraine and Russia, I can't tell you what the hell happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it with my own eyes.
Right.
But I can tell you what are the most likely scenarios based on, the kind of strategies that are on play. And I'm probably, I probably have an 80 chance of being correct. But I'm never going to say I'm 100% chance of being correct on anything, because science shows you that we have limited abilities to perceive and comprehend the world around us. And we have limited sources of information. So all we can do is kind of view events as though it were a black box experiment. And a black box experiment is where you have a box that you can't look inside. So you can never really tell what the hell is going on inside it. But every once in a while, it does things. And all you can do is make predictions on what you observe. So, the monetary system and Hamas and Israel and Ukraine and Russia. And to me, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what those psychopaths are talking about in their secret little meetings and their little hideaways and their little getaways with their little, orgy parties after the big luncheon. And, do I know what goes on? Who knows what goes on there? Who knows what deals are struck? Maybe Putin and Obama get together and they go to a steam bath together. You and I, we don't know that, right? But what we can do is just look at it from the outside.
Stefan, sorry to interrupt you, but we're
go
going to have a break now. We'll be right back.
We'll be back in 5 minutes, folks. Don't go too far. Stefan, we'll be right back. Hold that thought.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome back to Researchers Radio Live. This is Joe K, and I have Tim C here in-house. Hi, Tim. How are you?
How's it going, Joe?
It's doing really good. It's nice being able to see your face.
First hour went pretty quick.
As opposed to you being distant. First hour went fantastic, but Mr. Stefan knows his stuff, and he could keep it going. Stefan, thank you very much for joining the program once again.
Yeah.
We're very happy to have you. And Tim and I were just talking during the break, and there were a few things that we were hoping to get in before the end of the show.
Well, I understand that you did some training in China.
Right.
Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Yes.
So I was just wondering if you could, talk a little bit about your training overseas.
Yeah, we were discussing. He had asked me, and I wasn't too sure, Stefan, what had originally brought you to go to Asia. Originally, I know you are involved in martial arts. What initially brought you to Asia to begin with?
Well, it's a really sort of a long story. I've always been searching for enlightenment. I know it sounds funny in this modern day and age, but it hit me when I was a young kid. It hit me that wow, we're sentient beings on this weird planet at the far corner of a universe. How amazing is that? How incredibly awesome. What's it all about? Why are we here? Who made us? What is there a purpose to it all? I wanted to know those answers, and I spent a lifetime searching them. I've read every religious book you can possibly imagine, everything from the Tibetan Book of the Dead to the Sutras of Patanjali and to the writings of the Zen masters of Japan. And I also joined a lot of different spiritual groups at one time or another. I studied yoga. I became a Rosicrucian. I even studied the Christian mystics, always searching for some sort of answer to some of those big questions. And one of the disciplines I ran across, and it has stuck with me for all these years, and that is the fourth way. And which is a way of, you work on yourself on what is called all three of your brains. Now, we all have three brains. We have an intellectual part, which is the cerebral cortex. And then we have an emotional part of our brain, which is probably the amygdala. And then we have an instinctive part of the brain, which is, of course, the cerebellum. Or did I get those two mixed up? Cerebrum and the cerebellum. I often get them mixed up. Anyways, we basically have three types of brains, three centers, similar to the chakras in the yogic tradition, although I don't believe in chakras, but similar to that. So what it is in order to raise your being, so to speak, your overall level of enjoyment of life, you need to exercise three things all the time. The first thing you need to exercise is your intellect. You have to do some problem solving. You need to read books. You need to study some science. The second part that you need to feed, develop, and train is your emotions. And this is done through music and art and poetry. And then the third thing you need to exercise is your physical body. And the best way to do that is through exercise, and preferably something creative like dance or Tai Chi. So I had been pretty good at it exercising my intellect, and I was an artist and still am an artist. You can go to my website and see all my artworks from the past. Because I enjoy it. I don't make a living at it or anything like that, but I love to do it. That's who I am, so I do it. It gives me pleasure. But the third thing was the physical, and I needed something that would toughen me up because, like most intellectuals, you tend to get a little bit cerebral, and so you get to be a little bit flabby. Although, to be honest with you, I was never flabby because I was always an outdoorsman. But I never was an aggressive guy. I didn't play football in school. I didn't play hockey. I'm the only Canadian that never played hockey. And
yeah, that's
very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never liked.
That'll be a whole other show. I have a lot of questions there.
So I wanted something that would toughen me up. And Gurdjieff taught, that spiritual development can come through physical exercise. And if you see a talented dancer and you watch him or her go through those moves, I mean, it is a work of art. It is beauty incarnate. And it's a spiritual thing, to see that type of movement, the flow and the grace. Oh my God, it's beautiful. And people that watch it get spiritually uplifted. You watch that, or you view a beautiful painting, or you listen to a great piece of music, you are uplifted, and your whole level of being rises. So anyways, long story short, I said, let me try martial arts, And I started off with Taekwondo, and it was okay, but Taekwondo seemed to attract a lot of jerks, a lot of, testosterone and things like that. I don't like all this macho crap, I've never been a big fan of it. If you're going to be a man, just be a man. It's tough enough to be a man, just to be honest and decent in this world. You don't have to go around with patches and belts and crowns and like all these things that people use to show off what a man they are. It's something that's eternal. If you're a man, if you come in, if I'm within 5 feet of you, I can tell instantly if you're a man. Trust me. I don't need to see the awards. I don't need to see the trophies in your living room to know that you're a tough guy. I can tell. Because it's something real, and if it's real, if you have it, you radiate that, So anyways, I got deeply involved, and like with everything, I don't like to lie to myself. So when I got involved in martial arts, I didn't want to lie to myself and think that, I'm learning these pretty moves, but I can't actually use any of it. No, we got into everything. We sparred full contact, bare knuckles, anything goes, no rules, takedown. Long before this mixed martial arts, we were doing that stuff, And me and my kung fu brother, who had been training together for years, finally said, listen, we've been to every club in Toronto. I went to Chinatown. That's where the only clubs I could find that taught kung fu was right downtown in some back alley warehouse, and I was the only Western student in there. And that's actually how I developed my kind of interest in Chinese culture, was because afterwards we'd go out to the Chinese restaurants there, and I love Chinese food. And we could order whiskey that would be served in teapots. So, even if after closing hours, we could still get a drink, I like that sort of underground culture and the whole uniqueness of it. So after 6 years of study and fighting everybody we could, we said, let's save all our money and we'll go to Hong Kong. We'll learn from a great master. And that's what we did. We worked, 2.5 jobs and saved every penny. And we finally had enough money, and I started writing letters, and this was in the days before the internet, so I actually had to type letters on an electric typewriter. I mailed them out to people all over China, and I got 3 responses back after a year. And one was a praying mantis guy in Singapore. Another was a golden dragon practitioner in, where was it, Taipei. And then the third one was Hungar in Hong Kong. And I said, well, Hungar is the style I learned in Chinatown, so let's go there. It turned out that he was like the most famous kung fu master in southern China, direct descendant of Wang Fei Hong, which is, if you've ever watched any of those Chinese kung fu movies, it's always about Wang Fei Hong. They made like 100 movies about him. Jet Li played him in the series Once Upon a Time in the East. And it was so fortunate. I mean, at that time we paid $150 a month, and for that we were trained 6 days a week, 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock. We were provided an apartment and 3 meals a day, plus Master Chan, who was famous in Hong Kong, and he actually met the Queen of England and Prince Philip in the royal reception when they visited. When they visited the colonies. I mean, he owned a block of Kowloon, which makes him a multi-millionaire many times over. Anyways,
That's helpful.
And he took us everywhere to poetry recitals. I mean, there's nothing worse than a Cantonese poetry recital. It's like listening to two cats fight in a sack, But, it exposed me to a lot of culture. And then I didn't want to come back to Canada. I was having too much fun. So there was a sign on the, we were at a hostel in Chungking Mansions, which is a real down-and-out traveler's hostel. It's about 100 stories tall and 14 square blocks. It's just a maze of madness. Anyways, it said free airfare to Taipei if you promise to smuggle some goods. So I said, sure, I'll smuggle some goods. So I ended up in Taipei and found work there, stayed there for 4 years and studied under another amazing master, Sifu Tsai Renju. And this guy was a monster. He was built like, if you see the old kung fu movies with Bruce Lee, they always have this real bodybuilder guy, looks really mean. His name was Bolo Young.
Okay, I hate to interrupt. Did you say that you had to smuggle goods?
Yeah. I did quite a few smuggling runs.
Right on.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, it was kind of dangerous. Did you ever see that series Locked Up Abroad?
That's what I was thinking about. I was assuming it wasn't just exotic produce.
It was exotic produce. I got the nickname Smack in Taipei because I told the story of how I got there. But somehow everybody was so drunk by the end of the story that they forgot the ending of the story. But, I took them up on the offer. I said, sure. And what they wanted me to smuggle was at that time there was no trade allowed between communist China and Taiwan. Okay. And so in Taiwan, there was a huge market demand for dried mushrooms. I don't know why. If it comes from mainland China, it's so much better. And Chinese made lyres, those instruments.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So because it was illegal to ship them direct, they had to smuggle everything through Hong Kong. So provided I took 800-pound sacks of mushroom, which they paid for and loaded it up and everything like that, I could get into the country. And I said, okay, but I want to check everything. No drugs or anything. Oh, no drugs. So then I came across, while I was checking the baggage, 3 packages, brown paper bags that were, square. Well, it looked like kilos of heroin is what it looked like, So I asked them to open up the packages, and I immediately recognized that it was ginseng, right?
Okay.
And ginseng is a mystical herb. It's supposed to cure everything. And the best ginseng comes from Shanxi province in mainland China. And so it's worth its weight in gold in Taiwan because it's a cure-all. So anyways, I told the story that I thought it might be heroin, but it turned out to be ginseng. Everybody forgot that it turned out to be ginseng part. And so now everywhere I went for the first 2 weeks in Taipei, everybody was really nervous because they thought I was a major heroin importer. So they were calling me Jack the Smack behind my back the whole time.
Wow.
The name stuck anyways. So that's my experience. But
well, is this when the 36 strategies of ancient China was coming to fruition?
Yeah, it was coming to fruition at that time. Actually, that's another long story. There is a. Are you guys sure you want to talk about this martial arts stuff in Taipei?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm actually really enjoying it. That's up to you, though, my friend.
Okay, there's always been a rumor that there is a magical or mysterious book that is passed down from master to master, and in that book is all the secrets of kung fu.
No,
and
attention.
Yeah. Of course, no such book exists. Robert W. Smith, who was probably the best researcher in that, had actually come across a book called The Secrets of Shaolin Temple Boxing, but it's all of like 20 pages, and most of it is just ripped off from Confucius and Lao Tzu. I've read Confucius and Lao Tzu, and I recognize when they're being quoted, and that's all it was. So after like 20 years of study, I said, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to do the master volume. And so I did. I wrote a book, and I still have it. It's like 600 pages. Everything conceivably to do with martial arts and the way of the warrior, strategy, philosophy, mind control techniques, sensory enhancement techniques, you name it. It's all in that book. It's not published. But so I got an agent for it, and then the agent sold it to Weatherhill, which is a great publisher there in the States. Weatherhill does some really good books, and especially on the Far East. And he said, okay, Weatherhill's interested in publishing it. And I said, terrific. And then I didn't hear anything for 4 months. And I went, what? So I called the publishers up at Weatherhill, and I said, you guys still want my book, right? And they said, no, your agent was giving us so much bullshit that we canceled the deal. But unfortunately, I made the mistake of telling a couple of people that my book was going to be published. You're kind of excited. It's your first book, and it's going to be this major magnum opus on the wisdom of the Orient, And now I was stuck. They weren't going to publish it. So I kind of thought, what can I do to, write another book and get another publisher really fast? So I took one chapter from that magnum opus, and that chapter was on strategy. And when I had written that strategy, I had, memorized Sun Tzu's The Art of War and every other kind of military strategy book from The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli to Clausewitz on war. Wow. And I wanted to try and, what is the essence of strategy? Why? How does it work? How can I use strategy to get what I want and succeed in every battle? So I ended up writing
West Point and Annapolis, questions like that.
Oh, actually, absolutely, and the 36 strategies is studied at Annapolis Naval Academy, and because I did a Google search, and it's listed in quite a few theses written by cadets there.
I would not be shocked about that at all.
Yeah. Also, a game theory class in New York University, in New York State. So I wrote the book in about 6 months, and I got a publisher that was really interested really fast, and they published it like within another 6 months. And so within a year, the book was out, and so I saved face. So the people that I told I was getting published didn't know that wasn't the book that was supposed to get published. That's how that came about.
Things just always do fall into line.
Yeah, I was lucky, to be honest with you. Normally, it takes 2 to 5 years from the time you submit a manuscript to the time you see the book in your hand. It's a tedious process, to be honest with you. So I got lucky, but they liked the book. And the 36 Strategies is, pure strategy. You read that book. That's why, when you're saying, for example, discussing what's going on in the world today, like when you understand the strategies that could be involved, I have to say I don't know, because there are so many ways who is playing who on what. I've got a pretty good idea what's going on, but you can never be 100% sure. And like in the video on Defense Against the Psychopath, when I talk about, important that you understand their characteristics, but also important to understand that you can always be fooled. Never be too full of yourself. And so it's the same thing. I'm never, if you think you can't be conned, you make yourself more susceptible. So when I say I don't trust anything I hear or see, I also don't necessarily trust all my opinions either. I have to look at myself and go, am I seeing this correctly, or am I missing something? And until I've really, thoroughly thought it out, I'm always going to keep that doubt in my own mind. And to be honest with you, that's what will save you. So if you're dealing with a psychopath and you go, geez, that's such a great business investment he's got going there, and I like him, and his wife is really cute, and I think she's got the eye for me, and maybe I'll go in on this business deal. Boom, think to yourself, but maybe I'm not seeing everything that's going on. Maybe I'm being stupid somewhere. I'm having a blind spot. Step back, wait another week, look at it again, because can you trust yourself? Not all the time either,
Yeah, I didn't realize how stupid I was, or naive, I'll say, until you lose your shirt. That's when you really start to learn things. I had to learn a lot the hard way.
That hurts.
Definitely. Yeah,
it's a hard lesson, and it's cruel. It's brutal. But what you learn after that is, you know, it's not that you have to be full of self-doubt. You know, I'm pretty confident about a lot of things, but don't be too full of yourself, you know. Don't think you know it all, because nobody knows it all. And so long as you have, you know, a little bit extra caution, that will act as a barrier, as a shield to protect you a little bit better.
You see him coming.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and then even if you don't see him coming.
Yeah, well, you're well traveled and well read and well versed, and I know you're well prepared on the philosophies. I'm very impressed that you took the arts to the martial level as well. Where do you see your body of works taking you over the next 10 years?
Well, I still want to publish that book on I don't know what to call it. I had different titles for it, but it's really an important work because
the original work you're speaking of.
Yeah, the original.
Okay.
I'm going to work on getting that published eventually, because it really contains, you know, especially for us men, we are kind of, you know, we've been neutered lately, and of course we're being neutered because the psychopaths don't want virile, strong men. They want weak men. And so, you know, our culture is set up to kind of weaken us in a way. And I'm not talking like in some sort of, you know, Nazi strong guy kind of thing. I mean, you know, being real men, being responsible, being strong enough to do the right thing, because cowards cave into this evil all the time. And hello, that's why we're being encouraged to be cowards all the time, you know, because the powers that be want us to all cave into it, you know. Oh, don't speak out, you know, don't say anything. Oh, they'll put your name on a list if you say something, or if you don't appear. Well, listen, you know, all our names are on a list anyways, you know. So
yeah, I stopped worrying about that a couple years ago, actually, and I'm sure I'm on plenty of lists.
Exactly, and most importantly is we're not on a list, and that's the list that gets to survive, and we're not on that one. So if you're not on the one list, you're on the other one, and it doesn't matter, you know. But what men need is knowledge on how to train their minds and their bodies, and that's what martial arts should have done. What I admired about the old philosophy of the martial arts is that many of the greatest masters started off as sickly children. Often what would happen is in a Chinese family, agrarian family, they would have, you know, 8, 12 kids. And if there was one kid that wasn't healthy enough to pull his weight on the farm, they would get rid of him. And often what they would do is they would ship him off to a school or to a sensei or sifu, where he would be trained in martial arts. And so what the martial arts did was take sickly and timid children and train them until they were strong, healthy adult men, you know. And that's what martial arts can still do. But, you know, I'm really kind of disgusted by, you know, the whole Americanized version of martial arts, you know, with it's all so tainted with ego and self-aggrandizement, and
Well,
I really hate that.
Maybe you could help me understand. In China, would philosophy be just as important as the martial arts for the students that were under sensei?
No, that's all
strictly martial art training.
Mm-hmm. You know, you see the movies, and all the old Chinese masters are all great philosophers. Complete myth. You know, I mean, 80% of them were shysters as well. I remember we were in Hong Kong, and we heard that there was this kung fu master there just very close to where we lived. We said, let's go visit him. And he had published several books in the United States. He was always in Inside Kung Fu magazine, and, you know, with some exotic weapon and some fancy costume on, you know, posing fiercely into the camera.
Oh, yes.
You know, I hate those photographs. Why does everybody have to look mean? Because you're a big, tough guy? You know, it just looks so ridiculous. But you thumb through those magazines, everybody's got to be sneering into the camera. Why? Somebody pissed you off today? You know, that's got nothing to do with being a real man. You have to sneer and stare down everybody. It's ridiculous. It's juvenile, you know. But that's what passes for martial arts. Oh, yeah, we're all tough guys. Yeah.
A friend of mine, he has his kid in Taekwondo, I guess. and I went to go see his graduation. Kid's about 11 years old, and so they do like a demonstration, and it's fun to watch and everything. You know the kids are really into it. But the one thing that bothered me, and I don't know why it bothered me so much, but I just thought it was fake, and I don't like when there's a certain element of, when you're teaching children, if you teach them well. Don't give them half truths and this and that. But what they were doing is how they would split a block of wood in half, a board or whatever. Well, they were clearly pre-cut, and it was so obvious because nobody can kick a board and cut it directly straight down, and there was kids of all different talents that were doing it, and you could tell that the skill level was very varying. And I just thought that was more or less along. Everybody gets a trophy now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Time you graduate.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that stuff either. It's not what it's supposed to be about. What are you doing? You're showing off, and it's a lie. It's a lie. Do we need more lies? I mean, it's nice. Oh, the little kid broke the board. No, it's a lie. What benefit does it have to lie? And then the other thing that really annoys me is that they're drawing these children into participating in that lie.
Right. And it's another way of dumbing down the society and making us weaker, because you're just basically making it. You're dumbing down excellence. You're not rewarding excellence.
There's no refinement.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with breaking the goddamn boards, and I've seen that too. But when I was in China, a lot of times what the old martial arts masters would do is they would put on a little demonstration right on the street corner in front of the dojo or in front of the guan, or at the little local park, and right downtown in the city, they'd set off a lot of firecrackers, and then they'd be beating drums, and then out would come the lion dancers, and then out would come Sifu and a bunch of his students, and they would perform these amazing tricks, bending rebar around their neck, bending a spear in their throat. My Sifu used to break chopsticks in his throat. They would get somebody to come up and hold 2 chopsticks to his throat, and then somebody else would come and punch the chopsticks, and they would break, and all it is tricks. It's cheap tricks too. They're not even good tricks. It's a magician's trick, because it's got nothing. Anybody can bend the rebar, and once you know the trick about bending the spear with your throat, then anybody can bend the spear with the throat, and it's got nothing to do with it. But that's what people like, and that's why I really object to sort of the North American version of martial arts, because it's all this phony show, and yet. What they don't focus on is the ability to control awareness, the ability to have self-discipline, the ability to control your perception of time. There's a thing that happens that is almost like a superpower. And when they talk about, you reach a certain level in martial arts, actually there is a certain level that you can reach. And at that level, it is almost as though you're superhuman, because what happens is, your nervous system speeds up so fast that everybody seems to be moving in slow motion, and you still have your full perception. So it's like a video game. If all your attackers are moving in slow motion, it's easy for you to move in and out.
Are you talking about some form of self-hypnosis to bring about like this type of ability?
It is an altered state of consciousness. It absolutely is. And I wouldn't say hypnosis, because it sort of implies a trance. Mm-hmm. It's not a trance. It's like a super awareness. It's an acute awareness. It's when you notice the hairs on the back of the person's neck, while at the same time you notice that his left shoelace is untied. And, everything is moving in slow motion. It's almost impossible to master that skill, but if you can do it, and I've seen it and I've experienced it, well, it's almost like a supernatural power. And if you can do that in a time of crisis, for example, if you're being attacked on the street by a gang, let's say a street gang, and you go into this hyper awareness mode so that you can tell where there's a gap in the spacing between the attackers that you can slip through and get between and get behind and get out of the way of. Or if you're in a car accident and you can see how your car is going to impact with the car in front of you, and at the last minute you can make some changes, brake and steer, so that you hit them sideways instead of straight on, and because it all slowed down and you were able to think and react while the world was slowing down. Am I getting a little bit too weird for you guys?
No. I mean, it just sounds like a heightened focus.
Right.
It's a heightened focus. That's some of the benefits of martial arts, and the ability to perceive things. I can tell more from a person's body language than I can tell from talking to him, because
you and me both. I'm really glad you said that, because I say that all the time, where I actually, what I tell people all the time is I would learn much more about someone faster if they didn't even talk. I don't even need it. I know everything about you from just watching you for about 5 minutes, and nothing you're going to say to me is going to change my opinion. And it's not an ignorant comment to make. It's just there are patterns for people. There are movements and mannerisms and micro mannerisms that they make that all tell a whole story. And more often than not, it's right on the money. But the difference is that person's usually not aware of their own actions, and wouldn't want to hear them if you were to bring them up to them.
Yeah, well, how many people are walking around like that, though?
A good amount.
Exactly.
A good amount with their head up their butt.
Most people have no idea how they impact other people or their environment.
I'm with Stefan 100%
Right.
in regards to if you really do pay attention and you focus, you really do know a lot more than you really think you do. But you really have to pay attention to things going on.
Exactly. And, so that is another way of experiencing the world. But how many people know about that? And who's going to teach you? Where? High school?
No.
There's a professor that's going to teach you the in and outs of these types of perceptions. There's nowhere else in the world you can learn this stuff except on your own, through your own reading, if you had some sort of somebody to point you in a direction, because if nobody pointed you in the direction in the first place, you wouldn't know to research it either, right?
That's very fact. Yes. I really do wish the structuring of the knowledge, or really why you learn certain things in school, would be very helpful. And I've said it on the program before. Same thing applies here.
You can, there's a lot of people who get a lot of benefits out of meditation that are akin to what you were talking about with the heightened senses. I don't know necessarily for the speed of movement, but definitely heightened senses.
Well, one of my other books is called Blind Zen, and it tells the story of when I trained this blind woman in self-defense. And the book is almost entirely about the type of exercises and training techniques we used to teach a blind woman how to defend herself and do martial arts. And since the book has been published, I've received, and I continue to receive, dozens of emails from vision impaired and blind people all over the world who study martial arts and really enjoyed the book and confirm everything I've written in that book, which is, even deprived of sight, you can improve other senses to a huge degree. And it's really actually kind of easy. You simply have to make a person aware of it. Perception is reality. Let me give you an example. Do either of you guys play a musical instrument?
Yes, play the guitar.
Right. Joe?
Yes.
That's Joe who does.
That was me.
I definitely did not play a musical instrument.
Okay.
Tim has a musical ear, but he's never been trained on any instrument now.
Correct.
Okay, so let me give you an example. When you're tuning a string, right? Let's say you're tuning the top two strings, E and A. And when you tune the strings, the two notes will at first be discordant, right?
Of course.
So you will hear two sounds, right? And then you keep tightening or loosening to the string until they both sound exactly the same. But when you hear those two sounds, there's actually a third sound, and that's called the pulse tone. And for those of us who played instruments for a long time, we know what to listen to when we're tuning an instrument, But it's only when it's pointed out that there's the third pulse tone that you actually start to hear it. So all the time, people listen to music and they think they're hearing the notes that they're hearing. You think that, those piano notes are those notes that you're hearing, but actually there is notes in between that are pulse tones. And they're there. They've always been there. It's part of musical theory, but you won't perceive them until somebody says, wait a minute, listen between those two notes. Now you hear that, pa, 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 pa. That's the pulse tone. And then once somebody points it out to you, well, you hear it now. Would you say that was right, Joe?
I do.
You know what I mean when you're tuning into string, right?
Yeah, I do.
So when it's out of tune, you're listening for the pulse, the wah, 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 wah. And then when the pulse lessens, you're getting closer in tune. Wah, 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 wah. And now suddenly it's the same tune. But most people won't hear that third pulse tone until you tell them about it. So something as simple as listen to this. Now suddenly you hear it. And it's the same thing with a lot of the other perceptions and senses that we have. We perceive things all the time. It's automatically filtered out. We have a filtering part in our brain. It's
involuntarily.
Involuntarily, exactly. And it's filtered out. But there's information there that's huge, a huge amount of information. All we need to do is learn how to get in touch with it, and the world will open up, and we will see and hear and experience things much more in depth. It's like going from black and white television to color. Who's going to teach that to you? The martial arts had always been associated with spiritual development, and specifically Zen. And in China, they call it Chan. And Chan is sort of focused on, developing the mind. They use a lot of the yoga techniques. They borrowed a lot of it from yoga as well. But, when you get past it, there's a real function there. It's very mechanical. There's nothing mysterious or mystical about it. That's the way the brain works. This is how you train it. Once you're aware of such things, now you can perceive things differently. And the more information you have, the greater advantage you have. And it's a survival tool again,
I always think that, and I've heard it described in many ways, but, we're very limited as humans as to what we can perceive with the senses that we're born with. And in order to tune those senses and to actually, be able to perceive more, there's so much more out there that we cannot perceive, and that always amazes me, and it always, I always want more. I'm always compelled to just say, well, what really is there that I'm not seeing? Like, you only see so many colors in the rainbow, and you can only hear so many pitches of sounds. Like, dogs can hear the high decibel sounds that we can't hear, and so on and so forth. But it's very interesting that martial arts can open that up for you.
Well, it should. It doesn't now, though. You'll be hard pressed to find anybody that's able to teach it on that kind of a level, because it's all been kind of dumbed down again too, and then everybody has to they try to comply with kind of a Hollywood image of martial arts. So even but the good thing though is that you have that thirst for knowledge. That is the key element, that you want to know, that you want to experience more. To me, that is more important than anything else that you might have, because if you don't care to know about things, you won't know anything anyways, and there's a lot of people that don't care. I don't care if I don't know that. Fine. But, that's what always has driven me in my life. I want to know everything.
Yeah,
I know I can't, but I want to know as much as I can,
I just want to understand everything. I don't need every fact, but unfortunately it really takes a great deal of fact searching to get a good understanding, but it's always well rewarded. I can say that I've never been disappointed in thoroughly learning something, and it's always very helpful, but you never know when you're going to need that information again. And more often than not, for me, it always I'll always return to it sometime for something. So it's consciously or not, it's all very important. And I really do appreciate a lot of the early masters. You also briefly mentioned earlier in the show, and I was hoping I could return. You mentioned that you were a member of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood.
Yeah.
What? How long ago was that when you were interested in the teachings of Rosicrucians?
Oh, geez, that
Was that was in the a while back?
yeah, I'd say I was about 17, 18.
Okay.
And, I'd read all the books. Oh, my God, I'd read so many of those books. And, I would do the astral projection. They had the meetings on the astral plane and things like that. And
Of course.
did a lot of LSD back then,
Okay. Yeah. I understand that too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was experimenting. I did, the isolation tank, it was a lot of experimenting with the mind and the body and what it could do. And
I'm also a member of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood.
You are?
I am a member. I was reluctant in the beginning to actually be an official member, but my primary interest to even get me there were the original teachings, and to know them thoroughly. You want to ask the right questions, because there's always a lot more than the basic books, right? And I want to go back to the original source of the information. That's one of my flaws is I'll know the work thoroughly, but what drove this person to accumulate this? Where was his inspiration coming from, and the desire and necessity to amass a book? Early on, because books weren't written for just passing time and humor. Ultimately, they were a great deal of work, time, care, usually risk, and treated accordingly. And so, with the Rosicrucian teachings, that really brings you back to like a turning point in Europe. That's where a lot of the early teachings out of the Eastern Roman Empire, Constantinople, a lot of them started surfacing there. And so I kept going back there and just became good friends with a lot of people, and it ended up being a good thing for me for sharing a lot of information and ideas, and I learned a lot of better questions. I think more so than I got answers. I understood things a lot better. I'm a supporter of it in the sense that I really feel it's quite beneficial to a lot of people if one were to understand a lot of the teachings or learn them with an open mind. It could be very beneficial to you in many, many degrees. But just to me, just like any religion, if you study them based upon the original purpose, they all have the common goal of understanding all, right? It's the understanding I seek. It's not so much the facts and the details, but
sure,
I just want to understand.
The awareness and to be awake,
Of course. To see things clear, truly.
Yeah.
I like the truth.
I just, me too. I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to lie to anybody else, Give it to me straight. I don't follow it anymore, the Rosicrucian teachings. It's a very complicated belief system. It takes a lot of study to get through that stuff. And actually, that it wasn't a waste of time at all. I found a lot of the teachings I found echoed in the writings of like Madame Blavatsky and Alexander David Neal, the first woman to travel into Tibet back in the turn of the century. And
Blavatsky is a tough read.
Yeah, it's a tough read too. Edgar Cayce, I read everything by Edgar Cayce. I could understand what he was doing. He was astral projecting and getting in touch with the Caysic records, and so I found that even in something like the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Bon ceremony, where the practitioner goes into a graveyard and he allows the demons to rip his body apart, but of course it's an astral body,
Right.
And anybody that's done astral projection enough times, you eventually wind up in that one place there where things get really spooky,
I'm honestly, I'm not too familiar with it. I mean, I've read about it, but I don't understand it per se. I would say I don't understand it. I don't have a good grasp on it.
It's complicated stuff, and it's very heavy. It's very heavy stuff. It's when people try to explain a lot of the sort of supernatural phenomenon, and then the explanations they give, I always just say, that's no explanation whatsoever. At least use the Rosicrucian explanation, because in some way it has its own internal logic that works. A lot of things break down because its own internal logic isn't there. So a lot of things can be explained through a Rosicrucian type of viewpoint, and at least it holds together. At least give me a theory that's plausible, okay? Mm-hmm. And then I'm willing to, to look at it, and at least there was a lot of in the Rosicrucian writings that were very interesting. And there's certainly since then. With the study that they've done on physics, with the vibrational nature of matter, and the fact that atoms are mostly empty space, which means we are mostly empty space, and everything around us is mostly empty space, allows for huge potentials. There could be all kinds of universes trapped within frequencies that coexist within each other. It's all plausible now. It's plausible, and yet the Rosicrucians sort of had that figured out quite some time ago. So who knows,
Well, and those learnings obviously came from earlier masters. So yeah, quite a long time ago. And that's what I was touching on before when I was talking about the limits of our senses, and the fact that there is so much more that we possibly could perceive or that we possibly can't perceive. There's got to be much more out there that humans it's beyond human control, human capacity to understand. And those are the types of things that compel me.
Yeah. I use the analogy of the fisherman and the net. I read it somewhere, but it's a great analogy. If you're a fisherman and you have a net and you're in your boat and you throw the net into the ocean and you pull the net in. Now, let's say the space between the opening in the net is about 3 inches. So all the fish that are smaller than 3 inches will slip through the net. So the fisherman hauls in his catch and he says, well, the contents of the ocean are... excuse me, our fish 3 inches and larger. This is our senses. Our senses can only bring in a little bit. There's a lot of stuff like the smaller fish that will fit through the gaps in the net that fit through the gaps in our sensory perception. There's so much out there that there's no way we can perceive it. And so that's why we have to stay humble and say, ultimately, I'm not sure. Ultimately, I don't know because I'm working on limited information. There could be whole universes that I'm completely unaware of.
Definitely.
Well, Stefan, we're reaching the end of the program, and I really hate saying it because I could talk to you for another 2 hours right now, to be honest with you.
Thanks. We got off topic again, didn't we?
Thank you. Well, I just want to pick your brain on so many different things because you're well-versed and understood on many different topics, and you've really written on so many things. If I could segue to your website, we're at urbansurvivalstrategies.com and chinastrategies.com.
Yeah.
And
chinastrategies.com, until I move everything over to the other site, is probably the best one to go to because it'll have all my books there. And if you go to Writings for Warriors, I have all the articles that I published in Black Belt and Inside Kung Fu magazine. And there's about a half a dozen of those articles that talk about these perceptional tricks. For example, the Dragon's Gaze is one article which teaches you how to use diffuse focus to become more aware of your peripheral vision and sense things around you. And it's techniques that are easy to learn and actually will work. So if you're interested in that facet of it, the martial arts, there's a whole dozens of articles there about that as well.
Well, what else? We also have, I have so many links for Amazon for books. Stefan Verstappen, thank you so much for joining our show. You're an absolute pleasure.
Great guest, man.
And you're fantastic on the Electric Pyramid. And thank you so much for coming over and joining us on Researchers Radio.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
really, really grateful, really appreciative. You're a scholar and a gentleman, and I hope we can have you back in the future.
Yeah, I'll be happy to come on anytime. I like talking to you guys. I always feel very comfortable talking to you guys.
Thank you, Stefan. It's a two-way street there. It's pleasure's all mine. And,
all right.
Have a great day, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining the show, and we will keep in touch, my friend.
Okay, great. Take care, guys.
Have a great night. Another great show.
Yeah.
Another great, excellent program. Stefan is always well-versed. What a intelligent guy.
He knew a lot about very many topics. The truth is, he
Great guy.
he really got me on the smuggling thing. That was great. That was funny. That was a good story.
But that's what I like about Stefan. He's experienced. Just as he says, don't tell me, show me.
Well, that's the thing.
Where he reads someone, he lives. He doesn't want to hear about it. He wants to do it, experience, learn, live.
And the truth is, it's not a bad thing going off topic because we like to see here at Researchers Radio Live. We like to see where the topic will go, where the conversation goes.
And we get to know our guests a little bit more.
Definitely,
outside of the book,
no doubt about it.
So we are running near the end of the program. So I would like to tell everyone here at freedomslips.com that you must right now, as fast as you can, go to freedomslips.com, and I would like you to make a donation on behalf of our guest Stefan, or even for my co-host Tim C., who I have in-house. If you would go make some donations on behalf, but it's for not just for this show, it's for all the shows, it's for the station. It's a communal effort. We all try to do what we can. Hosts, producers, station staff, listeners, our favorites in the chat room. I'm telling you, I can't stress enough, everyone, that you really need to go to the chat room. If you're really not even someone who enters chat rooms, you really should check it out. A lot of good conversations. You could pose questions, interact with the guests and the hosts. You could ask questions and get them answered. There's Studio A, Studio B. I always tell everyone, don't forget that. You can go check out both schedules. But hey, Tim, did I happen to mention how excited I am about September?
No, you didn't, Joe. I didn't hear that.
I can't stress.
Me.
I can't stress how excited I am about September. I'm trying to not focus so much just for my first show on Marsilio Ficino, September 7th. But I should let everyone know at home, Marsilio Ficino is you could call him a philosopher, a hermeticist if you'd like.
He had
if
a lot
you're
of,
a Roman
Catholic,
Catholic, you might just say heretic if you'd like, because he had information that the church really did not like. He did give us the Plato you read today, and I'll tell you something else interesting. The Plato you read today, that's the abridged story. Marsilio Ficino gave us the old ways of Plato and the volumes and the complete works of Plato, and was ordered to change it. And he did so, and you have it today. A great deal of the original writings don't exist. However, a great deal of the knowledge and the ideas still exist from the letters Marsilio Ficino was writing to, mostly particularly, Tim, as we discussed, King Matthias Corvinus, which is someone I've studied for a good deal of time now. And I've been feverishly collecting all of these personal letters Marsilio Ficino wrote. And they're hard to come by. They were published in volumes going back all the way to 1506. I have purchased 4 of these volumes, and I'm trying to get them all. But these letters are just fantastic. I'm telling you, Tim, some of the best stuff I've read in a long time. What a truly brilliant mind.
I have a lot of reading to do.
Absolutely incredible.
Next month.
I'm just so upset I didn't first learn of him when I was 15. You know, I wish I just learned of him much earlier on in my life than when I did. But there's so much more I haven't read of his works. It's very crucial. I plan on getting through everything by then. I'm trying my best of his. I know it's not completely necessary. However, I did finish the 3 books on life. His Davida Trace and the Trina Sophia. So the 3 books on life. And everyone, if you go to my YouTube page, it's Joe Kiernan is the name of the YouTube page. You'll find a lot of awesome books for these early masters or hermeticists or occult wizards, whatever you like to call them. A lot of these early masters, you'll find a lot of their teachings in their books that I have been, the ones that are not in English, I've been getting to English, and ultimately they're on YouTube because they've been read aloud and put to a small film for the luxury of enjoying the audio, because I'm not a sound guy, but I do want to get this knowledge out there. So everyone tune in next week. We will be bringing some more fresh action stuff from Tim C and myself. Later.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio.
Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leap the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions